Hello, my name is Emily Carter. I'm 34 years old, and until very recently, I lived a life that most people would call painfully ordinary. I worked as a cashier at a grocery store in a small suburban town just outside of Chicago. My yearly income barely scraped by $28,000, and every single month felt like a battle to keep the lights on, pay rent, and cover all the little emergencies that life throws at you when you can least afford them. I shared a tiny 2-bedroom apartment with my younger sister, Anna. She was 28 and still in grad school, studying psychology. Anna was bright, ambitious, and always seemed to have everything planned out for her future. Me? I was the older sister, the one who was supposed to set an example, and yet somehow I felt like I was still stumbling in the dark, trying to figure life out. Most mornings I woke up at 6 a.m., not because I wanted to, but because that's when the anxiety would kick in. Thoughts about overdue bills, the looming car payment, or whether I'd have enough money left over to buy groceries for the week. I'd drag myself into the bathroom, stare at my reflection in the cracked mirror, and whisper, "Just keep going, Emily. One more day." On the outside, I pretended to be fine. I laughed with coworkers, chatted with customers, and texted my friends with silly emojis. But inside, I carried this gnawing emptiness. Life felt like a treadmill I couldn't get off, no matter how hard I ran. And then, one evening, something happened that changed everything. It was a Tuesday night. My shift had ended late, and I was exhausted. On my way home, I stopped at a convenience store, mostly out of habit. I grabbed some milk, bread, and eggs, the basics. But at the checkout, something caught my eye, the bright, shiny display of lottery tickets. Now I'd bought scratch-offs before, maybe once or twice a year, usually as a silly impulse when I had an extra $1. But that night, I don't know why, something in me whispered, "Do it. Just one ticket." Maybe it was desperation, maybe it was hope, or maybe it was destiny. So, I handed the clerk a crumpled $5 bill and bought a single, quick-pick ticket for the Powerball. I tucked it into my purse and forgot about it until the next evening. I remember sitting on the couch in my pajamas, watching the news with Anna half asleep beside me. The winning numbers started rolling across the screen. I pulled the ticket from my purse, more out of boredom than anything else. The first number matched. I laughed. Well, that's cute. Then the second number matched. My heart started pounding. By the time the third, fourth, and fifth numbers rolled in, I was trembling so badly I could barely hold the ticket. And then, the Powerball. A red 13, the same number on my ticket. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. I double, triple, quadruple checked, convinced I must have made a mistake. But it was real. I had just won $46 million. $46 million. I wanted to scream, to jump up and down, to cry. But instead, I just sat there, numb. Anna was too busy scrolling on her phone to notice the look on my face. She asked me if I wanted ice. Cream. I shook my head and quietly slipped the ticket back into my purse, my heart pounding so loudly I thought she could hear it. From that moment, my life split into 2 versions. The one the world saw, Emily, the broke cashier, and the secret version, Emily, the multimillionaire. The next morning I called in sick to work. I needed time to think. I locked myself in my bedroom, pulled out the ticket, and stared at it for hours. Do you know what $46 million could do? I could buy a house, pay off all my debts, travel the world, never have to clock in at the grocery store again. I could finally breathe. But instead of joy, I felt fear. What if someone found out? What if Anna saw the ticket? What if my coworkers heard? I knew how people could change when money was involved. I had seen it before. My aunt suing her own brother over their parents' house. Neighbors who stopped speaking because of a land dispute. Friends turning into enemies because of a few $100s. And this wasn't a few hundred. This was millions. That night I barely slept. I lay awake imagining the chaos that would follow if the truth came out. My relatives crawling out of the woodwork, demanding their share. Friends suddenly wanting loans they'd never repay. Even strangers pretending to know me, desperate for a piece of my fortune. No, I decided then and there. I wouldn't tell anyone, not Anna, not my parents, not my best friend, Claire. Nobody. But here's the thing. Living a double life is harder than it sounds. I still went to work, still punched the time clock, still acted broke. All while knowing I had millions, sitting in a bank account under a newly formed trust. It felt surreal. Yet, as weeks passed, a new kind of struggle began. Bills still piled up, because I didn't dare spend large amounts of money suddenly. I kept driving my beat-up Toyota Corolla, wearing the same faded jeans, eating cheap frozen dinners. And sometimes the weight of my secret crushed me. One night, sitting at the kitchen table, Anna sighed heavily. The landlord's raising rent again. I don't know how we're gonna manage." My chest tightened. I wanted to tell her, "Don't worry, I've got us covered. We could buy a house tomorrow." But instead, I forced a sad smile. "We'll figure it out. We always do." It broke my heart. The real breaking point came when our mother fell sick. She needed an expensive surgery, and insurance wasn't covering all of it. My parents called me, their voices shaky, asking if I could help, even a little. I remember holding the phone, staring at the floor, tears burning my eyes. I could have written a check that very minute. I could have saved them from sleepless nights, from the terror of medical debt. But if I did, they'd know. And if they knew, my secret would be gone. So instead, I whispered, "I'm sorry, Mom. I'll try to send what I can, but things are tight." When I hung up, I felt like the worst daughter alive. That was when I made the decision that changed everything. I thought to myself, what if I asked them for help instead? A test, a way to see their true colors. I told myself it was logical, that I needed to know who would stand by me when I was struggling, even though I wasn't anymore. But deep down, maybe it was guilt. Maybe I wanted to punish myself by living the lie even deeper. So I started asking. I asked Anna to cover the electricity bill one month. I asked my parents to lend me a few $100s for groceries. I even asked Claire if I could borrow money to fix my car. Each time my stomach twisted with shame, because the truth was I didn't need their money at all. But I wanted to see, would they help me when they thought I had nothing? And slowly, their answers began to reveal something When I first started asking for help, I told myself it was just an experiment, a little test of loyalty. But the truth? it quickly became something much darker. The first time, I asked Anna if she could cover the electricity bill. We were sitting at the kitchen table, the overdue notice lying between us. I lowered my voice, trying to sound as fragile as possible. Anna, I'm short this month. Could you maybe help me out? Just this once? She blinked at me, stunned. Emily, I'm already living on student loans. You know I barely scrape by. I know, I whispered. But if the power gets shut off, we're both in trouble. Anna stared at me for a long moment, then sighed heavily. She opened her wallet and handed me $60, all the cash she had. Don't make this a habit, she muttered, half annoyed, half worried. My chest ached. She had no idea I didn't need her money, but I took it anyway, forcing a weak smile, whispering, "Thank you." That night, I cried silently in my room. I had millions, and yet I let my sister believe I was helpless. Next, I went to my parents. I knew it would break me, but I needed to see what they would do. "Mom, Dad," I said over the phone, my voice trembling. "Things are really bad. Rent's gone up again, and my hours at work got cut. I don't know how I'm going to make it." My mother gasped, instantly panicked. "Oh, honey, why didn't you tell us sooner?" My father's voice was gruff, but steady. "We'll help. Don't you worry." I knew they didn't have extra money. They were already drowning in medical bills, scraping together payments for Mom's upcoming surgery. And yet, 2 days later, an envelope arrived in the mail with a check for $300. There was a note inside, written in Mom's familiar cursive. "We don't have much, sweetheart, but we'll always find a way for you. Love, Mom and Dad." The guilt was unbearable. My parents, my aging, struggling parents, were giving me money when I had more than they could ever imagine. I held that note to my chest and sobbed until my body shook. But the experiment didn't end there. I wanted to know how far people's loyalty went. So one evening, I met up with my best friend Claire at our usual diner. We'd been friends since middle school, inseparable, like sisters. She slid into the booth with her usual big smile, but I noticed how tired she looked. Life hadn't been easy for her either. She worked 2 jobs to support her son after her divorce. Over coffee, I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "Claire, can I ask you something? I need a big favor." Her brow furrowed. "What's wrong?" "My car's dying. The repair shop says it'll be at least $800. I don't have it. If I can't fix it, I might lose my job." I swallowed hard, pretending to choke back tears. "Could you lend me the money, just until I get back on my feet?" Claire sat back, stunned. 800? I don't have that kind of money lying around." "I know," I whispered. "I wouldn't ask if it wasn't desperate." She bit her lip, silent for a long moment. Then she said softly, "I can't give you the whole amount, but I'll loan you $200. It's all I can spare." I smiled weakly, thanking her, hugging her tightly. Inside, though, I felt my heart ripping apart. I was making the people I loved sacrifice their limited resources, while I had millions untouched in a trust account. At night, lying awake, I started asking myself, why am I doing this? Why am I torturing myself and everyone I care about? And then I realized I wasn't just testing them. I was punishing myself. Somewhere deep down, I didn't feel worthy of the money. Maybe I thought if I suffered long enough, I'd eventually earn it. Maybe I wanted proof that my family loved me for me, not for what I could provide. But the more I pushed, the more cracks began to show. One weekend, things came to a boiling point with Anna. She found me crying in the kitchen, staring at another late payment notice. "Emily, this isn't working," she snapped. "You're falling apart. We're falling apart. Why don't you ask Mom and Dad for more? Or Claire, or, I don't know, figure something out." I tried to keep calm, but my voice broke. "Do you even care that I'm drowning here? Do you even see me struggling?" Anna froze, her face twisted in pain. "Of course I care. I'm giving you everything I can, but it feels like it's never enough." She stormed off to her room, slamming the door. I sat there shaking, realizing I'd pushed her too far. The weight of my lies grew heavier every day. My parents kept checking in, offering support they couldn't afford. Claire began to look at me differently, less like a best friend, more like a responsibility. And Anna, she stopped smiling as much. She stopped trusting me. But the worst moment came a month later, when Mom collapsed during a family dinner. We rushed her to the hospital. The doctor said she needed surgery immediately, but there were complications with the insurance. The cost would be staggering. My father looked at me across the waiting room, his eyes tired and desperate. "Emily, can you help us? Please, we'll pay you back somehow." I opened my mouth, but no words came out. My throat tightened. I could have saved them all that anguish in a heartbeat. But if I did, the truth about the money would spill out. My secret life would unravel. So I whispered the same lie I'd been living for weeks. "I'll try, but I don't have much." The look in his eyes crushed me. It was a mix of disappointment, sadness, and something else I couldn't bear to name. That night, sitting alone in my car, I finally screamed. I screamed until my throat was raw, pounding the steering wheel, tears pouring down my face. What had I become? A monster? A coward? A selfish fraud? I had millions. And yet the people who loved me most were suffering because of my silence. But here's where it gets worse, because secrets don't stay hidden forever. One evening while I was in the shower, Anna borrowed my purse to grab some cash for groceries. When I came out dripping wet, she was standing in the living room holding an envelope. The very envelope that contained the paperwork from the lottery commission. Her eyes were wide with shock. Her hands trembled as she held the letter. "Emily, what is this?" My stomach dropped. My heart stopped. The secret I had fought so hard to protect was finally out. "Emily, what is this?" Anna's voice was trembling, but there was steel in it too. She held up the letter like it was a weapon. The logo of the State Lottery Commission was impossible to miss. My blood ran cold. I froze in the doorway, my hair still dripping from the shower, my towel wrapped tight around me like flimsy armor. My chest felt like it might collapse under the weight of her stare. "Where did you—" I stammered, my voice breaking. Anna shook her head violently, tears pooling in her eyes. "Don't you dare lie to me. I found this in your purse. You won the lottery. You're a millionaire?" Her words slammed into me like a physical blow. The secret I had built my entire world around, the silence, the lies, the shame, was unraveling right in front of me. I tried to speak, but my throat closed. Anna, You let me give you money, she screamed, her voice cracking with rage. You let Mom and Dad write you a check when they could barely pay for their medicine. You let Claire loan you cash when she's working 2 jobs to survive. What the hell is wrong with you? Her words sliced through me. My knees buckled and I sank to the floor. I didn't mean to. Anna dropped the envelope on the coffee table like it burned her. Her face was red, streaked with angry tears. You didn't mean to? You lied to everyone who loves you? You let us believe you were suffering while you were sitting on millions? The sound of her voice echoed in my skull, louder than any scream I'd ever heard. Please, Anna, I whispered, my voice shaking. I was scared. I didn't know how to handle it. I thought if I told people they'd change. I wanted to know who really cared about me, not about money. Anna's hands balled into fists at her sides. And what did you find out, huh? That we cared enough to bleed for you? To give you what little we had while you sat there watching? Her words hit me harder than any fist could have. She wasn't wrong. Anna stormed into her room, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. The silence that followed was deafening. The next morning, the house felt like a war zone. Anna wouldn't look at me. She wouldn't speak to me. The weight of the secret was no longer just mine. It was hers too. And I knew it was only a matter of time before she told our parents. That time came faster than I expected. 2 nights later, I walked into my parents' living room, and the look on their faces told me everything. The letter lay on the coffee table between them, glaring at me like a spotlight. Emily, my father said quietly, his voice steady but cold. Is this true? My legs shook so badly I thought I'd collapse. Dad, Answer me, he said firmly. I lowered my head. Yes. Mom let out a sob, burying her face in her hands. All those nights, all those bills, and you let us suffer? Mom, please, I begged, tears streaming down my cheeks. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I wanted to know if people loved me for me. Not for money. My father's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing. Do you hear yourself, Emily? Do you know how cruel that sounds? You tested us, your own family. We gave you everything we had, and you sat there holding millions. I hated myself for it every single day, I whispered, my voice breaking. But the damage was done. The news spread like wildfire. Claire found out within days, through Anna. She showed up at my door, her face pale, her eyes wide with betrayal. You lied to me, she said flatly. You let me believe you were desperate. You let me hand over money I didn't have. I'm sorry, I cried, reaching for her hand. She pulled away. You're not sorry. You're sick. You played us like puppets. For what? To feel powerful? To feel loved? Her voice shook with rage. I don't even know who you are anymore. Then she turned and walked away. Watching her leave hurt worse than any knife wound. In the weeks that followed, everything unraveled. My family wouldn't answer my calls. Claire blocked me. At work, rumors spread, whispers about how I was loaded, but had pretended to be poor. The isolation was suffocating. At night, I lay in bed surrounded by silence, staring at the ceiling. I had the money to buy anything I wanted: cars, houses, luxury vacations. But I had no one to share it with. The people who had once been my world now looked at me with disgust and betrayal. I'd wanted to know who loved me for me. Now I knew. But the price of that knowledge was unbearable. One evening, desperate and broken, I drove out to the coast. The waves crashed violently against the shore, the wind howling through my hair. I stood at the edge of the cliff, staring out at the dark horizon. I thought about jumping, about ending it all. But then, somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered, "You still have a chance." I couldn't undo the past. I couldn't erase the lies. But maybe, just maybe, I could try to make amends. The next morning, I began writing letters. To my parents, to Anna, to Claire. Each one was soaked with tears as I poured my soul onto the paper. I admitted everything: the fear, the guilt, the loneliness. I told them I had made the biggest mistake of my life, that I didn't deserve their forgiveness, but I was begging for it anyway. I promised to use the money not for myself, but for them, to pay off their debts, to cover Mom's medical bills, to help Claire's son go to college. I mailed the letters with trembling hands, not knowing if they would ever forgive me. Weeks passed before I got a response. Anna showed up at my door one rainy afternoon. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen from crying. She didn't say a word at first. She just stood there, staring at me. Finally, she whispered, "I don't know if I'll ever trust you again. But you're still my sister. And I can't just walk away forever." Tears poured down my face as I pulled her into a hug. For the first time in months, I felt a sliver of hope. My parents were slower to forgive. Claire. I don't know if she ever truly will. But little by little, I began to make things right. It wasn't easy. The damage I caused will never fully heal. But I learned something I'll never forget. Money doesn't test love, secrets do, and I lost more to my silence than I ever gained from the lottery. So if you're watching this, if you've made it to the end of my story, I want you to remember this. Don't let fear steal your honesty. Don't let money poison your love. And don't wait until it's too late to tell the truth. Because sometimes, the real lottery isn't the money you win. It's the people who stand by you, even when you've given them every reason to walk away. If my story touched your heart, please, don't leave without subscribing. Every story I share is a piece of my soul. And when you join this journey, you're not just a viewer, you're family. Click subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Together, we'll uncover more mysterious tales of love, betrayal, and revenge. Because sometimes the most shocking stories are the ones closest to home.